Here are your examples for 9-6. Lesson 6 is about analyzing data distributions. The first thing we're going to talk about is this important point here: describe a distribution by shape. The distribution of a set of data shows the arrangement of data values. It can be described by its center and its spread or variation, and lastly the overall shape. Determining the symmetry of the distribution is one way to describe shape. If the left side of the distribution looks like the right side, then the distribution is symmetric. So you definitely want to put this in your notes. We should recognize here the difference between symmetry and non-symmetry. And like it says, if the left, right here, looks like the right, we have symmetry. In this case, the left side of the data does not look like the right side of the data. Another way to describe the shape of a distribution is to identify peaks, clusters, gaps, and outliers. Make sure you put these four things in your notes so that as you do this assignment you have those at hand, so you remember what things you're supposed to describe, and lastly so that you can use it on the test. If there is an outlier, the distribution is not symmetric. Problem number 1. The graph shows the weights of adult cats. Identify any symmetry, clusters, gaps, peaks, or outliers in this distribution. So the first thing we would say that it is non-symmetric because one side does not look like the other side. Secondly, we could say that there is a cluster from 7 to 12. The data is pretty tightly packed from here to here, and that there is a peak at 10. The next thing we could mention is that there is a gap in the data right here from 12 to 14, and then lastly there are no outliers. And that's really all you need to do with these problems. Remember to write these specific things down so that you make sure you cover all of them. Please press pause and do letter A. Next thing we're going to talk about is describing the center and the spread of a distribution. Again, this is something you should definitely put in your notes, this piece right here. Let's explain. The shape of a distribution tells you which measures are most appropriate for describing the center and the spread of a particular distribution. The mean and mean absolute deviation are affected by outliers, while the median and the interquartile range are resistant to outliers. Use the following graphic organizer to decide which measures of center and spread are most appropriate to describe a data distribution. So the first thing you do is you ask yourself, is the data distribution symmetric? If it is not, then you're going to use the median to describe the center, and you're going to use the interquartile range to describe the spread. If it is symmetric, then you're going to use the mean to describe the center and the mean absolute deviation to describe the spread. It's just that simple. Problem number 2. Mr. Watkins' class charted the high temperatures in various cities. The results are shown in the line plot. Describe the center and spread of the distribution. Justify your response based on the shape of the distribution. So, first of all, we would recognize that the distribution is not symmetric. Therefore, the median and the interquartile range are the appropriate measures to use. The data are centered around the median, so we find the median and we determine that's 84 degrees, and it's centered around that. And the first quartile is 80, and the third quartile is 95.5. So we have a quartile here, and at 95.5 would be right here. So the interquartile range is from 80 to 95.5, and the way to figure that out is to subtract, and that's a 15.5 degree interquartile range. So we would say that the spread of the data around the center being the median of 84, is 15.5 degrees. Please press pause and do letter B.